Hi, this is Mike, and in this video, we're going to talk about another count for Bitcoin. Now, trading Bitcoin the other day made me really think about how Bitcoin expands, right? Because knowing the waves is one thing, but understanding the kind of momentum that expands these waves so much in a way that I've never seen before, it really hit home, right? It really rattled the foundation of how I look at waves, right? In terms of why am I seeing a particular pattern the way that I'm seeing it? Thinking more along the lines of when I created RS Wave was more in the FX market. The most expanded thing I was looking at then was the Dow Jones. But then seeing how much energy and power are behind these moves, it made me think about the whole move up from the beginning. And so I started right from scratch and I thought, okay, let's have a look. Let's look for expanded type 2 zigzags, right? And let's see what we come up with along the way, because that means I have to go through every single wave possible in order to try and understand what's going to happen moving forward. So the first thing I noticed here was an expansion for this move. Right now, it's easy for me to just say, oh, this is a one expanded, this is a two expanded, blah blah blah, 4 5. And I thought, no, 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 no. The way I saw price expanding that day when I was trading that big move up recently, I saw something a lot different. So in this video, I'm going to focus on not only the expansion of corrections, but the momentum and the type of weakness that we see towards the top of the range compared to the strength at the bottom of the range. Because according to this count, wave three started from zero, all right? Whatever one, two was, I believe it was a zigzag and a correction, right? And then we got two at the bottom, right? But not two as in this is, one, two, three. No, 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 no. Just watch. So here we have A, then we have an A, and then we have a large B, a C, a D, and an E. So for me, 5 waves after that, it could be one of two things. It could be, uh, you know, 1, 2, or it could be something else. So what would it take for me to think, this is one, and then there's a two, and then a three? Well, it's all about the size of the moves and also paying attention to the momentum, right? So momentum started off strong at the lows, right? Started off strong here, but then it kind of went a bit like this. It was a longer move, but still the momentum was a bit different, right? So for me, this is an A, B, C, expanded zigzag. I would say more than likely wave three, okay? Wave three. Now, why would I suggest that? Well, that's because of the momentum. And also because if this was a wave one, right here, we'd see something stronger that would indicate something different. But instead, this is indicating to me, especially because it fell out of this channel, I want to talk about this part right here. Okay, so this is another example of how I got it very wrong, but I do remember having this count once, but I couldn't even convince myself at the time that it was even a thing. It looks stupid and impossible, right? To call this a B wave was insanity. But the thing is that I can't really call this whole thing a B wave anymore, right? Because I've seen too many things at the small degree that I'll cover in a sec. First of all, I want to talk about this B wave here. It's a sharp type 2 expanded zigzag, and I've seen them a lot lately. In my latest Euro update, I actually point these out. They happened where a lot of people called them textbook 5 wave moves. I remember reading comments on the euro back when it went up for the 2017 run. They called it a textbook five-wave move. But the thing is that it's not. Why? Because the subdivisions don't approve of that. All right. So let me tell you what I see here when I look at this pattern. Right. First of all, I see a five-wave move up. Right. And then I see an A. And then it's like, well, what happened after that? Right. And that's when I started to realize that there's a B, C, expanded D, right? And an E. Yes, we got a longer C wave. But the thing is that the types of moves that are in between, they suggest that that's correct, because a five-wave move is not a correction. And the first move is a five-wave move. First move is a five-wave move, right? And I can't say that anything in between that is a correction either, right? So therefore, I'm stuck in this situation where I'm like making sense of these things and going back to basics to do what I used to do when I first came up with RS wave, was to look at the waves either side. Okay, cool. So then I took a look at this move, a weak C wave, another type 2 expanded zigzag for wave D, and then an E, right? So that to me told me, okay, cool. Well, that means that the next move is a five-wave move. So I checked it out, and it checked out pretty good, right? So I'll switch over to the other chart, right? Now there is some labeling that you might find interesting or not, but I'm just going to skip to the part that I'm talking about for this example, right? So five-wave move here for me was 1, 2, 3. Okay, so at the top you see, right? You see a three-wave move and a three-wave move. Now that only happens at the start of a correction, and then we saw this five-wave move down. So bringing back the idea of the DE pattern, that suggests to me that that is definitely a DE pattern, and I can't unsee that. Maybe it's not part of the bigger correction, but it seems to be part of this move. So to me, this was a five-wave move from 2020 right up to here. Now at the top here, you see that there is a 3 and a 3. To me, that is the same thing we saw here. If you pay attention to the waves and if you look clearly and just open your mind up for a moment, you could see that there's two zigzags, and up the top here there's two zigzags. This to me is a clue that, and this is what I saw first. So this is what led me all the way back to the beginning, because I started to realize that what I'm seeing is not, I'm dismissing it, right? Just like I've dismissed things in the past, but now I have to pay attention to these things because they're clues. So to me, this was the first part of a correction for the wave four, and now this next part is the part of correction for something else, right? So that then took me back to the idea that we are in a weak five-wave move from the lows. We can't see wave one and completely two, but we can see a whole bunch of other stuff going on here that's giving us clues, right? So what's going on after that? Now we need to be really careful how we're looking at this, because I think that this is where we're going to get wrecked. If we're not careful, we're going to have a lot of problems here. Okay, so we need to make sense. Now that we know what we know about the top, we need to try and make sense of this. Okay, so I thought, okay, could this be a C, D, E? And I thought, that looks interesting. However, what about the fact that there's not a complete five-wave move here, right? You can say that there's a five-wave move in here, but that means that we're lacking something, right? So here there's a five-wave move, but then what's this down here, right? So to me, the only thing, if I'm going to call this whole move a five-wave move, like I was intending on doing before, then I need to be careful that I'm actually counting a five-wave move rather than just trying to make up stories and go with the flow, right? So for me, if I'm going to look at this as not just a zigzag, because to be honest with you. It's very choppy and weird. That there's something I need to do in order for me to not think that this is a D wave, and it's simply just put that D wave hasn't happened yet, right? So I can say that this is a 5 wave move down if I call this a C wave, right? So what does that mean? It means that we haven't seen D wave yet. D wave is not in this structure because you have a 1, 2, 3. Well, you could say there's a 4 and a 5 down here somewhere, right? To me, it's definitely a weird type of move. Um, so let's sort of go a bit deeper and have a look at it, right? So from here, if I had to say, what's this? Okay, I could see 5 wave move either side. I can see A, B, C, D, E potentially. That makes that a zigzag A. And then this whole thing down, I've already looked at it many times. I had to call it a B. C, D, E, 5 wave move at the end. Very small 5 wave move at the end. Fair enough. I've seen it many times on Bitcoin charts. That to me, it's really, it's not a big deal. I don't like it, but it's not a big deal, right? So let's keep that one in the back of our mind because at the moment, that's the only thing that to me is a little bit weird. Now, the other thing that's going on here that we need to talk about is this move, right? I think it's deceptive as hell, and we need to be really careful about it. Because if we're expecting a D wave, what's the one thing that causes us to think that the trend is going to continue? It's a D wave, okay? So, in terms of timing, we're going to talk about how this is going to lead us into what's coming next. And I need to be really careful here, but at least we can understand one thing: the cryptos move a lot more than the euro does. So in getting ready for this bull market that's coming, we need to be careful that we're actually trading the right thing that we think we're trading, right? So what about in terms of potentially this could be part of a wave four? Well, that's a bit of a tough one because we've already broken a trend line. And if I'm to continue to assume that this is a CDE pattern, I think potentially I could be barking up the wrong tree. However, let's just see what happens when I talk this out, right? Because look, at the end of the day, if that's possible, then some way somehow it's going to reveal itself. Um, because there's only so much that this pattern can do before it actually starts to not be the move that's going to go back to the all-time highs, right? Now, I know I've got this D wave there. Just ignore that. I'll get rid of it so it doesn't distract you. So we have a 1, right? Okay, fair enough. Maybe a 2, a 3. Do we have a complete 4 here? Really think about that. Does it make sense? Do we try to wrangle this into, um, a complete correction with a tiny little wave 5 at the bottom? Look, I think we could be barking up the wrong tree here. I need to be really careful about this. If I'm to say that this could be a CDE pattern, then I need to just answer one question first before I get to that. So, you know how we've been talking about expanded zigzags quite a bit, right? Now, there's something on this chart that's really bothering me, and I find it a little bit disturbing to say the least, right? Now, over here, we have, okay, at the highs, you can see that we had this, you know, big zigzag looking thing at the top there that really it's striking a little bit of a chord with me. So to me, it's kind of like, what the hell's going on here? A little bit weird. So let's just say, for example, let's take discount for a minute, right? Because to say that this is part of this, it's not. So let's try to rectify what we're looking at here first. What about if this is an A, B, C, D, E, and that's wave 5 there, right? That makes a little bit more sense. And I think that's something to look into because that looks like the most impulsive part of the move down the lows there. Okay. So let's get this thing out the way. Let's look at it like that for now. When wave 1 and 3 are similar in length or whatever, wave 1 is 5 is the shortest. That's possible. Okay, that's fine. So here I want to talk about this thing that is driving me a little bit cuckoo, right? So okay, D wave typically is a breakout wave, right? But D wave down the low, I think that potentially we could see the same thing we saw at the highs with the DE pattern. Okay, remember this DE pattern here, right? I think that we could see something similar to this happen in the not too distant future, right? Just to bottom out. Okay. Now, what makes me think this, and what's my backup, my claim to back up my claim? Okay, so the first thing I want to look at here is at the bottom we have this five-wave move. We have an A, a B, a C. Right? Where's the D? Is the D in here somewhere? Is it mixed up? Where's the E? I don't know, but I think that potentially what we're looking at here is something more like an expanded D wave within a D wave, similar to what happened in XLM, right? So if that's the case, then how the hell do we, rationalize that? Well, I think that wave one started here. Wave three kind of went from the lows up to here, and then we saw wave five. So we saw potentially wave five, so a five-wave move up to here, right? I think that what we saw after that was, oh, sorry, it's up to, was it there or there? I think it was there. And then we saw an A, B, C, D, and then this thing was a five-wave move in the end, I think, right? I believe it could be, especially because we had that zigzag looking thing up there, then we had another zigzag here, and then we had that weak five-wave move before the plummet. So I think the last move wasn't meant to be as long as it ended up being, but it was. So potentially this could be an E wave, right? And then what we're seeing is an expansion for the rest. So basically a move that's similar in length to this one coming up here like this. Okay. So I'm going to have to go through these waves again and see if this is true or not. I'm not sure. Uh, Therefore, what that could possibly mean is that after we see maybe this move down for E, we could see another move up to complete the move, right? And even though wave A was small, it doesn't mean that it can't get longer at the end because we've seen that happen before, right? We've seen it happen where, um, these C waves extend, right? It happened in the big wave three, the one I showed you earlier. It's happened many times, right? It even happened back in the example that I showed you, right? Uh, right back here in the B wave, right? If I'm to say that this is an expanded uh, wave B, well, look how small the wave A was, and look how big the wave C was, right? These things almost look like five-wave moves, right? But the thing is, it's the momentum that causes them. It's not exactly following strict rules in waves. It's the momentum. So for me, the only clue I have that's any better than anyone else's is the understanding of how the little patterns the small patterns in between, what they mean type of thing, right? That's the only advantage I have really. I don't have any other advantage. So for me, this type of expansion in these like corrective patterns are the ones that sort of point to this type of thing. So look, at this point in time, it doesn't mean much, but if this is a D wave, I don't think the E wave is going to be terribly long. Okay, now we know XLM still has to make another low, right? So if that's the case, and as the euro corrects in anticipation for this next bull market, right? Um, Look, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a little bit of chop to the downside or whatever to make it look like it's going down before it reverses and goes back up, right? So I'll post more detailed analysis on this, but I just wanted to show you what I believe could happen before we take off. Because as a trader, I need to know what I'm trading, right? Because I trade small degree moves, right? In anticipation for longer moves. But if it's not going to keep going up like we all think, that could be a problem. right? The other thing to understand is that when I said that the C wave can expand, well, that's